Hi, Sheev? I wanted to ask you something. You see, I've been thinking of doing a review on Battlefront 2, but I'm not sure if I should do it or not.
Do it.
The infamous story of Battlefront 2 still resonates through the entire gaming community. It's still used as an example of terrible monetization systems in games to this day. The game's egregious loot box system caused mass outrage in the gaming community upon launch, and quite rightly so. The Star Wars fanbase had a right to be upset. EA already messed up the first 2015 Battlefront game, and so people were excited that Battlefront 2, released in 2017, was going to include a campaign, among other features missing from their first attempt, but then the loot boxes were unveiled to the world. Battlefront 2 carried over the star card system from the first game, which allowed you to equip different abilities and perks on your characters and heroes. However, Battlefront 2's implementation was a little different. Instead of cards bought with in-game credits, which you earned after every match, the sequel took a completely different approach. The cards were snuck into loot boxes. Players had to pay real-world money for them, and EA chose to shove all of this with an undercooked pay-to-win garnish right down the players' throats while sneakily charging extra for dessert. Okay, that analogy got weird, but you see my point. Without paying money, it could take you up to 40 hours of gameplay to unlock Darth Vader in a Star Wars game. Fast forward to 2020, and the mess I just described to you in the previous chapter is a complete shadow of Battlefront 2's past. But how did we get to this point? Well, just a day after its disastrous release, all the microtransactions in the game had been temporarily suspended before it could damage EA's image any further. You can no longer purchase the premium currency anywhere or use it in-game thanks to accusations that the game encouraged gambling. There were lawsuits. It even prompted a change to the law in some countries. It was a PR nightmare. In December that same year, Battlefront 2 fans got their first taste of that sweet free DLC that EA had used as an incentive for those angry with the loot boxes. Far too many times. The update included 2 new heroes, Finn and Phasma, 2 new maps, and a short expansion to the campaign called Resurrection. Not bad, not amazing, but for a free update, quite decent. The microtransactions were still suspended. In February 2018, the game got another update containing a brand new game mode, jetpack cargo, and the first ever cosmetic appearances. In March 2018, DICE finally decided to do something about those loot boxes. Finally, after months, something was done to modify their bizarre presence. Still there, but not functional. Loot box contents would not affect your gameplay. Instead, they offered the purchaser a choice of appearances. Up until this point, you would earn star cards through crates, but you still couldn't purchase them with real-world money. That was locked. Things finally started to look up for the future of Battlefront 2. The new progression system was added to the game, which worked by unlocking skill points through playing the game, which you then used to purchase star cards. The daily crate, which had remained in the game up until this point, was also revamped. It used to grant 100 credits and a random star card. Now it would just grant the credits. All the heroes were now automatically unlocked for everyone, so that there was no longer a gap between those who had them and those who didn't. And it was here that things began to look promising. And after many more subsequent content updates, in May of this year, Battlefront 2 has received its final content update, with DICE ending their support for both Battlefront 2 and their other game, Battlefield 5, in order to work on Battlefield 6. So that means that the current state of Battlefront 2 is also its final state, minus some possible future bug fixes. So with all that history in mind, let's take a look at Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Captain, she's highly trained. Deception, infiltration, extraction. She's special forces.
I won't lie to you, when I originally started playing this game 2 years ago, I really liked the campaign, and even when I originally wrote a review of it on my blog, I give the campaign high praise for its, and I quote, fun, engaging, interactive Star Wars story that is brand new and never seen before. If you want to read the whole thing, I'll link it below. In retrospect, Battlefront 2's campaign is terrible. Boring characters, dreadful writing, and honestly just an all-around disappointing story. You play as Iden Versio, and Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia, and Han Solo, and Lando Calrissian, and Kylo Ren. And right there is the first problem with Battlefront 2's campaign. In trying to cram way too much fan service into the campaign, it lost any sense of originality that this campaign was hyped up to have in the first place. I remember this game advertised as a brand new, never before seen Star Wars story, but the originality is actually lacking. Too frequently, the game switches to sections where you play as pre-established Star Wars heroes, the Star Wars film perspective that is already familiar to fans, rather than the actual main character of the game. I wanted to play new scenarios and explore the stories from another angle. The story follows Inferno Squad, a team of Imperial Special Forces agents, with you playing as their leader, Iden Versio. The campaign opens up with a cutscene of two rebels talking about a prisoner, that prisoner of course being Iden. The rebel captain attempts to interrogate Iden with no luck, and Iden activates her helmet's built-in Alexa functionality, which powers up her drone in another room. This is one of the most fun sections of the campaign, as you get to play as this cute little drone, flying around the ship, zapping enemies, slicing consoles, and sneaking through vents. But all good things must come to an end, and eventually you manage to break into Iden's cell, so there's no more drone fun to be had. This is one small problem that I would like to quickly highlight. This opening drone section is great fun, and every time I replay this game's campaign, I always enjoy it, but it leaves me wanting more. There are no other dedicated drone sections in the entire campaign, which is such a missed opportunity. The drone does remain with you throughout the rest of the campaign though, and you can equip it with various abilities to help you out, so that's cool. Anyway, back to the story. So Iden goes through the whole ship until she comes to the super important rebel data that she has to steal, or whatever, and then promptly ejects herself into space. Honestly, I can't be bothered to go over the campaign, so I'll try and give a brief summary. Iden and her team travel to Endor. This is to place them neatly in the Battle of Endor, which takes place in the 6th film. Here they witness the destruction of the Death Star 2. After leaving Endor and flying through the remnants of the Death Star, they are told that they have been assigned to help act out the Emperor's final order, Operation Cinder. Operation Cinder is some massive brain idea to control the weather using these huge laser satellite things and make bad thunderstorms, I guess? So Iden and her team travel to Iden's home planet of Vardos, where she decides that this is all bad and she and Del decide not to get involved, eventually joining the rebellion. Then some other stuff happens, and that's it. Obviously, a lot more things happen in the story, and I could easily go into a lot more depth, but this isn't Spark Notes, and I'd much rather get into why I don't like it and how it could be improved. The main problem with the campaign is that literally less than halfway through, the main character converts to the rebels. It really seemed as if DICE was trying to play it safe here. Oh no, if we don't have the main character fight for the good people, then people won't like our game. But seriously guys, do you know how good this game's story would have been if Iden had stayed on the side of the Empire for the entire campaign, if there'd not been tons of random cameos from well-known Star Wars characters every 5 minutes, and there'd been a couple more of those amazing drone sections? As a character, Iden Versio is really cool, and I love the style they were going for with her and Inferno Squad. Battlefront 2's campaign is a terrible missed opportunity to tell the story of the destruction of the Death Star 2 and the now supposed death of Palpatine. Also, quick side note, how the hell did that guy survive? Like seriously Disney, did you not see the 6th movie? The guy literally fell down a several 100-foot hole on a space station that was promptly blown up. What the hell? Okay, so now into the meat of the game, the multiplayer. But you can't have meat without bones, so let's talk about the classes and weapons. First off, this game appears to have a lack of guns, but actually the base classes have a combined total of 20. Now technically there are more than this, but for each class there are base weapons that you get when you start the game. These weapons change on depending what faction you're playing as, e.g. the Assault class has the E11 if you're playing as the Empire, but the F11D if playing as the First Order. The reason I'm not including this is because they all function basically the same, so I'm just counting them as one weapon for each class. Talking of classes, let's talk about the classes. This game features 4 main classes: Assault, Officer, Heavy, and Specialist. To boil them down, Assault uses, guess what? Assault rifles. Officer uses pistols, Heavy uses machine guns, and Specialist uses snipers. Each class also features its own set of star cards, and you can equip up to 3 on each one. Star cards are split into 2 sections: boost cards and ability cards. Boost cards help improve your characters, such as giving you a certain amount of health for every kill, or increasing the amount of battle points you earn for certain actions. Ability cards either change one of the class's abilities to something different, or are an improved version of the default ones. Oh yeah, each class has 3 abilities. None of these are incredibly substantial, but they do help to show a clear difference between the classes. The Officer has more defensive abilities, such as being able to summon a turret and also being able to boost nearby allies. The turret can even be swapped out for a shield if you like. Assault and Heavy have more offensive abilities, such as the Assault's Vanguard shotgun and Heavy's minigun. Finally, Specialists have abilities that are more suited to staying away from the action and scouting, such as the thermal binoculars that can spot enemies, or infiltration, allowing you to become indetectable to enemy scanners. As you play, you earn battle points for getting kills, playing objectives, or dying? Battle points allow you to play as different characters such as commandos or jet troopers, vehicles like tanks or walkers, and if you get enough, heroes such as Darth Vader or BB-8. Yes, this game considers BB-8 to be a hero. Battle points are a super cool mechanic that you don't really see anywhere else, and I think they are one of the best things in this game's multiplayer. The feeling of earning 4,000 battle points and finally being able to play as your favourite Star Wars character is super satisfying. Let's now go over the weapons. So then, each class has 4 unlockable weapons, each requiring a different amount of kills with the class to unlock. First requires 50 multiplayer kills with that class, the second requires 200, the third 400, and the last requires 50 co-op kills. Each class has a decent range of different guns. I love things like the SE-44C for officers and the CR2 for assault. This game might not have a ton of weapons, but the ones it does have feel really well made, and I love using almost all of them. All weapons use this cooling bar as a replacement for a reloading system. Basically, this line moves along the bar and you have to press at the right time. If you click while it's red, then you have to wait for your weapon to cool. If you click while it's blue, then your weapon cools instantly, and if you get the yellow, then you get a 5 or so second period where your weapon won't overheat. But enough about how the weapons work, what about how they feel? Weapons in this game feel absolutely amazing, apart from the snipers. They're probably my biggest issue with the weapons in Battlefront 2. For a sniper to feel good in a game, it needs to have punch, it needs to be able to take down an enemy in 1 to 2 shots. That is not the case for snipers in BF2. Oh no. Look at this. Just look at it. Something like 4 to 5 shots to take out a basic enemy in an AI match. And not only that, it just feels weak. There's no punch to it, no satisfying sound effect, nada. It just acts the same as every other gun in the game. Other than that, gunplay in this game is amazing. Sometimes it can feel a little repetitive, but if you switch up the characters and classes you're playing as every so often, it feels super satisfying, and each weapon gives off its own unique feel. But of course, this is Star Wars, there aren't just guns, so what about lightsabers? Well, first off, in order to use a lightsaber in BF2, you have to be playing as a hero. You can't just wield them as a random person. Lightsabers feel a bit off in Battlefront 2. Every time you attack with one, your character does this weird thing where they move forward slightly. When you're actually killing enemies with one though, it feels incredibly satisfying. You can slash your way through tons of enemies, especially in AI matches, and every attack feels actually impactful. I do feel it's a little disappointing, as for a Star Wars game, the lightsaber combat is incredibly lackluster, but I'll give it a pass. Okay, let's move on to game modes. There are a lot. Let's start with the biggest one, Supremacy. I love Supremacy. In Supremacy, you fight on 2 teams of 30, facing it off on huge, open, non-linear maps in order to capture command posts, of which there are 6. Eventually, if your team manages to capture all of the command posts, then you get to board the enemy's capital ship. Once on the ship, you have to try and destroy it and take down the enemy. Meanwhile, the enemy has to defend it. If you manage to destroy their ship, then yay, you get the victory royale, and the other team is sad. If you don't manage to destroy it, then it's back to the ground to capture those command posts again. Overall, Supremacy is a great and engaging game mode because it just feels like a real living battle. You could use any hero, any class, any character at any time, and when on the ground, the vehicles you can use are never restricted. Anything that can happen, and it's not just a set of predetermined paths for you to take. Speaking of which, let's talk about Galactic Assault. Galactic Assault used to be this game's flagship game mode before they introduced Supremacy. In Galactic Assault, you once again are fighting a large-scale 30v30 battle, but instead of the non-linear open design of Capital Supremacy, you get the complete opposite. If you lose in one scenario, you have to fall back to a predetermined location and then complete another one. Everything that happens in a Galactic Assault match happens because it was programmed that way. It doesn't feel like a real battle. They even stop you from using certain vehicles at some points, and lock down where you can go in the map. Don't get me wrong, Galactic Assault can be fun, but it will just never be able to match the sheer chaotic madness that can be had in a Supremacy match. Okay, so those are a couple of the game modes, but here is a quick summary of the others, apart from the ones I'm going to talk about in detail because yes. Blast, is literally just team deathmatch. There's also Strike, which is a smaller scale version of Galactic Assault. Extraction is like Payload from Overwatch. Heroes vs Villains are 4v4 battles where you play as heroes or villains. Heroes Showdown is literally the same as Heroes vs Villains, but 2v2. And Ewok Hunt is 1 Ewok versus 19 Stormtroopers. If the Stormtroopers die, they become Ewoks. It's like infected. Now onto the other game modes that I'm actually going to bother talking about. As well as the more traditional PvP game modes, Battlefront 2 also features its very own co-op PvE game mode called, guess what? Co-op. It's actually one of my favourite parts of BF2 for 2 reasons. 1, I suck against real players, and 2, it's really fun. Getting to play against AI in a variety of different scenarios, playing as heroes, commandos, droidekas, and many more. They even added 1 weapon for each class that can only be unlocked from co-op, so that gives you something to work towards. Although they do only require 50 co-op kills with that class, so they're not much of a challenge. While co-op levels are linear in design, they are more lively than game modes like Galactic Assault, as the action is a lot more constant. The maps are really well utilised to fit the missions and make them feel fun and engaging. When launching into a co-op match, you can choose to play on any one of the 6 factions, with a variety of maps and levels for each. Every faction is exciting to play, and my personal favourites are the Republic Commando and the First Order Sith Trooper. The other benefit of co-op is that it counts towards your multiplayer progression, so it's a good way to level up in order to match those people in PvP game modes who have entirely maxed out star cards. Finally, I wanted to talk about space combat in Battlefront 2, because it has it. In the larger game modes like Supremacy or Galactic Assault, you have the option to use starfighters such as TIE Fighters or X-Wings in order to take down combatants in the air. However, there are actually 2 dedicated game modes for space combat: Starfighter Assault and Hero Starfighters. Starfighter Assault is like Galactic Assault in space, and Hero Starfighters is like Heroes vs Villains in space. In terms of the game modes themselves, they'll both give you a good time, although I do prefer Starfighter Assault. Starship combat feels snappy and fluid, offering a well thought out control scheme where you simply move the mouse to steer. Although I will say that only applies to PC. On console, the controls just don't feel quite right and are quite slow. Although I think this may have just been down to me playing on too low of a sensitivity when I used to play this game on PS4. You simply aim at your enemy and click to shoot. In Starfighter Assault especially, chasing down enemies in tight spaces and through the debris of old ships really feels like living out a Star Wars experience. You can play as a few different starfighters for each faction, as well as hero starfighters such as Boba Fett's Slave 1 or 3 different versions of the Millennium Falcon. Space maps feel well designed, with largish spaces as well as plenty of places to go and a decent amount of obstacles. Space combat is amazing in this game, and it didn't even really need to have it, but I am so glad that it did. Let's go on a brief tangent about map design. As with every Frostbite game, apart from FIFA, this game is just absolutely gorgeous. From the amazing luscious forests of Endor to the barren desert wasteland of Geonosis, DICE has crafted some of the most beautiful and intricate scenery of any game on the market. Everything in Battlefront 2 has a level of detail and polish that you'd be hard pressed to find in any other multiplayer FPS. Even 3 years after launch, it still holds up. When playing on maps like the Camino cloning facility, seeing intricate details such as your gun actually getting wet in the rain is super pleasing. The maps are also very well designed in terms of their layout, being perfectly suited to each game mode that they can be played on. Supremacy maps are large and expansive, while Blast maps are tight in close quarters. Okay, another brief section. Let's talk about menu design and UI. For Battlefront 2's menus, DICE went with this really cool blue hologram and white design. The main menu greets you with some of the game's more popular game modes, as well as your daily challenges below. You can also move along to the Play section, where you can choose multiplayer game modes, arcade, and campaign. Across from the Play tab, there's the Collections tab. This is where you manage all of your classes, heroes, starfighters, etc., equipping star cards, weapons, and appearances. Finally, across from Collections is the Career tab, where you can view all of the challenges you have completed / are yet to complete. In-game, the UI is very simple, giving you a radar and a view of your 3 abilities, plus of course the score, /timer, whatever at the top of the screen. Overall, the menus in BF2 are fairly easy to navigate and nicely designed. 400 out of 10. The final main part of Battlefront 2 is Arcade. Arcade is the offline solo play mode where you can either play on your own against AI or duel it off against your friends in couch co-op. What's that? You don't have any friends? Me neither. Friends are cringe. Arcade is split into two sections, Custom Arcade and Battle Scenarios. Custom Arcade lets you set up pretty much anything you want, whether that means having to kill 999 AI enemies, or just fighting Jim from 2 doors down the street. Battle Scenarios are pre-made scenarios where you play as specific heroes or classes to fight off certain amounts of enemies, complete time challenges, and more. There are equal amounts of light side and dark side battle scenarios. Arcade is great for quick, casual fun. It's also a great way to try out weapons that you haven't unlocked yet, or just play them on the maps you love. Battlefront 2 has slowly become one of the most definitive Star Wars gaming experiences out there. There's a little something for everyone, whether that is small-scale hero battles or gigantic supremacy matches. Graphically, it is incredible, and the same can be said for the gameplay. It has certainly come a long way since being the subject of the most downvoted Reddit comment in history, and it gets my full and complete recommendation. So thank you for watching this video on Battlefront 2. If you did enjoy it, there is of course a button for that, and if you would like to subscribe, then do that. Sorry that this video is a little late, but from now on I'm going to try to consistently upload every 1 to 2 weeks. If you're a big fan of my older content, I recommend keeping an eye on Lettherebegames DOS, as there's going to be some new videos on there soon. Other than that, I have been Lettherebegames, you've been you, and this was a Battlefront 2 review. Thank you for watching, goodbye.